Welcome to Legacy Elevated. We are here to equip, empower, and inspire the next generation through business and community leaders. Legacy Elevated will revolutionize your business beyond the P&L to further shape your identity as a company and your evolution as a brand. Legacy Elevated focuses on global impact you can have by being hyper-local in charity and community while living with your future legacy in mind.
Hi, this is James Nellis with Legacy Elevated. We are here to talk about insurance, everything you need to know, what you thought you knew, and what you may change about what you know with insurance. And I'm excited to bring to you Brandon Wince of Farmers Insurance in Woodbridge, Virginia, where he's going to talk not only about insurance as a whole, but what it looks like to get the best policies in the DMV. Brandon, how you doing?
Good, fantastic. I appreciate you having me. Morning.
Yeah, good morning. And let me ask you this, Brandon. How did you get started with insurance and why insurance? I know we were talking the other day and it sounded like that wasn't your first path.
So going to college, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. My family grew up and has always owned their own businesses. My restaurant business primarily. My dad had gotten out of the restaurant business in the mid 90s. Farmers was new to the state. So he actually started the state. So I'm a multi-generation, if you will. Back in 94, at 15, I was filing paperwork with him, answering phone calls, taking payments when we were allowed to have customers come in the office pre-COVID. Went to college, and he said, "What do you want to do?" I considered real estate, actually, James. I think it's a great industry. I considered being a loan officer. And then I interned for him for a couple summers and said I like the industry, and started to work for him full time. And then he said, "Okay, enough. Go out and start your own farmers agency." That was in 06. We ran side by side until 2018 with two different companies when I absorbed his, and at 72, he finally retired.
Oh, nice. Nice. Well, that's a great way to continue your business, right? Take over the family business. That's fun. You know, who we're going to have listening to this podcast is going to be interesting. It's going to be, of course, people that are already in the insurance game finding out, well, what can I learn from Brandon? It's going to be the consumer that's out there just thinking about, hey, I'm about to shop for car insurance or home insurance. What do I need to consider? And obviously we run a real estate company, so there's a lot of people that miss out on what they should have for insurance. So let me ask you this. What are the three most common mistakes made when applying for insurance? So I'm picking up the phone, I'm calling Farmers, I'm calling whoever it is. What are the three mistakes that people make?
So I would say the biggest mistake is probably using a 1-800 number. And nothing against the 1-800 numbers, the flows and geckos, et cetera, but you're as good as who you get on the other end of that 1-800 number. And there's no accountability with a 1-800 number. So if you buy or what you think is a good product, and all of a sudden you go to use that good product that you think is a good product, I should say, and you never know what you're going to get until it's too late. And then there's no accountability. When you call my local office in Woodbridge, it's like a family here. So we know each other by first name basis, and I'm held accountable to the product that I sell you. So that's got to be the biggest thing. I would say number 2 and 3, we make sure it never happens. But number 2 is definitely coverage related. In Northern Virginia, DC, Maryland, most of us have basements. There's a tiny little coverage that probably costs $10 a month called water backup, to where my number one claim has got to be sump pumps that die in the middle of the night and you've got a foot of water in your basement. You don't have the $10 rider, your claim gets denied over the phone at 2 a.m. when your basement's flooded. That's never fun. And I'd say the third mistake is kind of newer. I've seen a lot of insurance companies trying to slide percentage deductibles in there. And this is for homeowners insurance. A percentage deductible sounds like it's no big deal when they say, oh, and by the way, you've got a 1% wind and hail deductible, until you go to put in that wind and hail claim. 1%, it's 1% of the value of your home. So if you have $1 million house, you've got a $10,000 deductible. When you go to get a new roof because we've got a bad hailstorm, to have to pay the first $10K is a little bit frustrating, but it doesn't sound like that when I say 1% deductible. So we don't ever do that. So
well, and that's interesting because Yeah. And that's interesting because when we're looking at, you mentioned hail and storm. I mean, if you've been around the DMV for the last 30 years, we've had at least 2 or 3 of those cycles where many people did have to replace their siding, their roofs, and everything else. When should, now I've heard this, you can tell me this is true or not. I have an incident. Let's say the water backup of my home or something else happens. If I call in, am I flagged? Does that then hurt me for a renewal rate, or is that a myth that's out there?
No, it's definitely not a myth, but it also depends on what company you're with. So if you call the 1-800 number, yes, you have technically, it's like you calling in and saying, hey, I just ran into my garage door. What should I do? Well, if you call Geico and you tell them that, you know that you just put in a claim. You told them you hit something. With homeowners insurance, it's the same thing. If you call and say, hey, there's 2 feet of water in my basement, what should I do? Well, you've put in that claim. Well, that's not the way my office works, which is another benefit to having an agent. When you call my local office here in Woodbridge, you say, hey, Brandon, I just hit my garage door with my bumper. What should I do? I'm going to say, okay, no problem. It's not panic. First of all, nobody's hurt. That's the main concern. We can fix the garage door. We can fix your car, no problem. I want you to get an estimate first. You've got $1,000 deductible. You go get that estimate. You come back and you say, I can fix it all for $1,300. We're going to have that hard discussion of, do you want to put in a claim for $300? Most of the time people will say, no, thank you. And I can keep your rates low. And it's kind of none the wiser. It's not on your record. There's nothing that changes on renewal. It's between us. And that's a massive benefit to having a local agent.
No, that's interesting. So let's go down that path for a second. Let's assume that I file the claim and it costs $1,500 to fix the car or whatever it is. Next year, and I know this can range, but does my policy go up? Or how many claims do I have to have for that to impact my policy?
So it's one claim. It can, but each company is different. Farmers is not out to get you. We very, very rarely non-renew people. I mean, you've got to put in a ton of claims with Farmers to get non-renewed, whereas other companies I won't name, you put in one claim and they're going to get rid of you. And that's just bad business. But each policy is different. There are different riders that you can put on. I'm real big in accident forgiveness right now with the Farmers auto policies. I hate it when you've been paying for this thing that you haven't used in 3 years, and all of a sudden you get into a bad accident, and on renewal, your policy goes up by 25%. Well, like on my policy, I'll pay the $2 or $3 a month per car to just add accident forgiveness. And then God forbid something happens, I get into a little fender bender. I'm upset that I've got to put the claim in, but my rates aren't going to go up on renewal. It's a great thing to have.
Tell me about the COVID impact that we've seen in 2020, 2021. I was told that if you're not driving your car as much, or if you're telecommuting, are there any things that people should be looking at based on how they're living today versus 2 years ago?
So we did give back discounts. Allstate was the company who kind of started this great thing of companies giving back, and they gave back, from my understanding, one of the least amount of any companies out there. Farmers was on the higher end, not to throw them under the bus, but we gave like 25% back of 1 month and another 15 of the next. With COVID, we've really pushed an app-based, and I think that that's the future of car insurance. I think eventually it's going to all be app-based. As your cars get more advanced, I'm big on Acura. My Acura, actually, when I bought it over the summer, it said, do you want me to send your driving history to Nationwide? I've never been with Nationwide, but apparently they've got a relationship. And so with COVID, I think everything's starting to go app-based to try to reduce rates. But Farmers has an app called Signal, to where we give you big discounts by not driving smart, not texting while driving, not speeding. But to be a counterpart of that, if you will, it's even if you are a bad driver and you go with the plan, just because we're in such a data-driven world right now, we're just trying to gather people's driving habits and get information. You sign up for the app, you still get a discount. It's a great thing.
Now, this is a question I'm sure everyone has, which is, what impacts your rate for insurance, and why are providers different, right? What I've seen before is I can call 3 different companies and get 3 different rates. So why does that happen?
100%. Not every company is created equal. And it's kind of like if you compared it to cell phones or TV providers, et cetera. And each company offers something a little bit different. You can tweak the policy. Some agents know how to get their client what they need at the best price. Some agents don't, unfortunately. What can impact price? Driving history, your claims history on your home history, as far as if you put in any home insurance claims. Location is a big one. Especially in Maryland. It's just a little bit tougher because you can't use credit in that state. Are there fire hydrants in your neighborhood, or are you on well and septic? I'm on well and septic. My homeowner's insurance is a little bit more because I don't have a fire hydrant. Reason being, if I had a fire, the fire department's got to bring a tanker truck with a ton of water in it to put the fire out. So it's a little bit higher of a risk. Yeah, you just, as far as what company is high and which one's not, you just need to do your due diligence. And I think loyalty goes a long way. You don't want to shop every single year because that's tracked if you're a jumper. And when you find a good company, it's a relationship building business as well. So we're really here to protect you and help you. And cheap isn't always good. But hopefully that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, because I have heard people jump from time to time. And I completely makes sense to not jump every year. How often should someone review their policy to make sure they're getting the best discounts either with that company or with another one?
So I would say we try to do annual farmers friendly reviews, it's called. And the biggest thing is that lifestyle changed. Maybe you changed jobs, or if you've moved or bought jewelry, or you've got kids that are coming along and starting to drive, and different coverages you need. Depending on your life circumstances. I've pretty much set up a plan, especially for homeowners insurance, to where unless you add an addition to your home, my start plan is your end plan. Or if you need to add jewelry, fine, but we sell good policies here. I want most claims to be covered depending on what you want out of it. So I would say you want to do probably an annual farmers friendly review, or at least with your agent. If you're with a 1-800 number, I'd say call a local agent probably once every 2 to 3 years, just to feel the local market. It's nice to, if you've got a problem, we really have your back. And like, I'm right here in Woodbridge. A lot of my clients, or most of my clients, are in Northern Virginia. If there's a problem, I can go to your house. If there's a problem, you can come to my office and we can sit down and talk face to face. You just can't do that with a 1-800 number.
One of the buzz terms I hear in insurance is bundling. If I bundle, I save, or I get a discount. Can you explain what that looks like?
Yeah, and we're big on that because I do want my clients to get the biggest bang for your buck, and bundling is by far the number one way I can do that. It's the biggest claim I've got, or excuse me, it's the biggest discount I got. I apologize. And it's a big discount. It's like 30% up. So most of my clients have multiple lines. They'll have business insurance, auto, home, life insurance, if you need an umbrella, depending on your circumstance, and all those things. It's kind of like going to Costco's. You buy in bulk and the price per item goes down. It's the same way with insurance. You buy in bulk and that price per product goes down. So bundling is a great thing.
Any other, we'll segue here in a second, but anything else that I can do as the consumer to lower my rates? You mentioned a good driving record. You mentioned if you haven't put a lot of claims out there, but is there anything we can do? For instance, if you're getting a loan, there's ways to fix your credit. So if you're applying for insurance, are there things that I could do over the next 6 months that would give me even better rates?
So one thing that we do is each person is not created equal, if you will, and spouses can have different prices. If you're not running it both ways, which you're 100% allowed to do, and quoting it with one spouse as the primary and then the other spouse as the primary, to see, is there a discrepancy? And maybe I get $100 a month for my car and my wife is $80. You never know. And it works out that way a lot of the times. That's a smart thing to do. Another is just risk tolerance. So some people don't feel comfortable with a higher deductible. Others feel completely comfortable with the higher deductible because they say, well, I haven't used insurance in 5 years and I'd rather save the money. Well, increase in deductible can significantly lower cost.
Yeah. So let me walk through what it means. What I've seen in the real estate industry is too many times people are underinsured. They don't get what they should have. I know you mentioned having the $10 policy. Was that $10 a month or $10 a year?
A month, and sometimes it can be as low as like 4 or 5, depending on how big your house is and how much coverage you need. And I look at the house and I can tell you instantly how much you should have approximately. I mean, it could go up to maybe $25 a month, maybe $20 a month for an extremely large house. But that's the water backup.
If I'm buying a home next week, what is the insurance when it comes to the home that I better make sure is part of it, whether it's layered into the policy, whatever it is? So obviously water backup, which would be roughly $120 a month. We're not going to stick you with that, but something to that effect. What other things do I need to make sure are in my policy, and what should my deductible be?
So I would say on average, your deductible is going to be $1,000, maybe $1,500, probably no higher for the DMV area. You want a high liability limit, especially at Farmers, because we give it away. A lot of companies I see, they'll do $100,000 or maybe a $300,000 liability limit, and then a kid gets hurt at your house, God forbid, and you're getting sued, and you've got $100,000 worth of coverage. I can't look at somebody and say, well, we could have sold you $1 million and it would have cost an extra 70 cents a month, but we decided to do 100,000. That's what I mean by giving it away. It's really insignificant when it comes to the mortgage payment. So, and then another new coverage that Farmers just started with is service line protection. That's huge. It's $3 a month. It covers all the utility lines in your yard. So if you've got a house that was built in the 70s, you got 50-year-old pipes in your yard, and all of a sudden a tree root cracks that pipe. Well, yeah, we'll fix the damage to the inside of your house, but we won't fix the pipe in the yard because prior to 2019, we didn't insure that. Well, not anymore. Now on every one of my policies, I try to add service line protection as long as the client is okay with it. And it's literally $3 a month. It's a great thing.
Wow. We actually had clients recently that had to walk away from a transaction because they did do, with a plumber put the pipe or shot the camera through, and they estimated the cost to be about $30,000 because it was underneath a concrete pad. So in that example, would Farmers have covered everything, the restoration of the yard and the concrete, or is it just the pipe?
Up to $10,000. It's the excavation cost, the repair of the pipe, up to 10 grand. Normally I find that it's anywhere between 7,500 and 10,000, but yeah, there can be unique circumstances, unfortunately, where it goes up to 30. The only other companies that I know that offer it, any type of coverage and who kind of started it are your utility companies. But it's 3 times the price and a third of the coverage. So it's much better to get it through Farmers.
Oh, wow. This is probably the good time for me to ask, do I have that? Did you give me that on my policies?
I'm pretty positive I did. If not, I will add it today. Yes.
That is to double check. No, I have seen that. And even before I knew Farmers offered it or you did, a lot of our clients, we've advised them, hey, it's going to cost about $6,000 to $7,000 if the pipe goes bad. Nobody else is going to cover it. And the utility companies do allow you to add on to your monthly. So that's great to review as well. Tell me about, obviously, if I have a car, which most people do, I have a house, we talked about what that looks like. The third policy I think everyone should really take a deeper look at is an umbrella policy. And you probably heard that before if you're listening to this podcast. Explain what an umbrella policy is and what type of umbrella policy people should look at.
So a personal umbrella, I have mine and I advise people get it for peace of mind. It's the best insurance that you can get to personally protect yourself against getting sued. If somebody, like I said earlier, gets hurt at your house and you get sued, it's a blanket policy that kind of goes on top of everything, just like an umbrella does. It goes on top of your auto, your home, any rental properties that you have. And like I said, I've got mine for peace of mind. If God forbid I get into a wreck and I hurt somebody really bad, if I get sued, I'm going to feel bad about hurting that person, but I don't want it to be life-changing. So I don't want to have to go bankrupt over somebody suing me for $1 million or $1.5 million if their life is changed for the worse due to my at-fault accident. So an umbrella they probably start at $10 a month for $15 a month for $1 million policy that goes on top of everything. But at the same token, only good drivers can get them. Only people who have limited home claims, And you have to have good underlying limits to get them. So you can't have like a $25,000 auto policy and then just stack $1 million on top of it for $15 a month. So you have to have certain requirements to get it. And we definitely are a pro umbrella.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the insurance world, if I am just buying a home, if I just got a new car, I know you said beware of the 800, look into somebody that's local. Anything else that I need to keep in mind when shopping rates or trying to figure out who I go with?
I think that you always want to go with a company that doesn't just throw together something, not tell you what it is, and then just say, here's the price. And then it's a bad situation to get in because you don't really know what you've bought. And then you go to use this product that you've been paying for and not knowing, is something covered? What's my deductible, et cetera. Here at my office, all my staff knows we try to take the headache out of insurance. And customize a policy for you and then educate you. I can't tell you how many people will switch to me from so many different companies, and I'll say, do you know what you have right now? And they said, no, I have no idea. And I go, okay, well, here's what you have now, because I'm looking at a copy of your policy, and here's what you're going to get through us. And then you can customize it based off of what you want. I offer you the kitchen sink and break down exactly how much each of those items cost. And then you can kind of nitpick and customize it for your needs.
Let's talk about two things that I think most people don't know about or have heard about. One is a clue report. Can you explain what a clue report is and how that can really help an individual that's looking to buy a home?
Yep, and we pull those on a daily basis, especially I'll have realtor partners like yourself who will call me and they'll say, I think that this is a shoddy repair and there might have been some water damage in the basement. And we go in and pull clue reports on houses all day long. That's not a problem. It basically tells if either the insured or the home has had any claims in the past 5 years. And then it will tell me exactly, and this is for homeowners insurance at least, and it'll tell me who put the claim in, the address, how much was paid out, what type of a claim it was. And it's very similar for auto insurance. I can tell if that car, based off the VIN number, has had a claim against it. I can also tell if the driver, based off your driver's license, has put in any claims with any company in the past 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Clue reports have been huge as we've walked properties and trying to figure out, hey, is there an issue here? Is there something underlying that they're trying to cover up? Or as you said, it was fun, not fun, but it was interesting to see how many people pocketed the money. So can we share that of how many people pocketed the money in the 80s and even early 2000s when they had that hailstorm? It was interesting to me. So is it true that when you file the claim, yes, they can come out and make the repairs, or sometimes they'll offer you cash? Does Farmers do that, or how does that even work?
So pretty much every company works about the same way, but it's claim specific. But for the most part, as a generalization, you have a hail claim, you have legitimate damage, you need to get it replaced. Let's say it's $15,000 to replace your roof. They'll come out there, they'll measure everything, they'll say, okay, it's 15 grand to repair. We're going to give you 8 up front. You have recoverable depreciation after that, and you can come back once the repairs begin. Some companies make you actually finish them. We don't. Just once they begin, so you can pay your contractor. We'll give you the other 7 in what's called recoverable depreciation. But we don't want to give you the full 15 because we actually want you to repair the house. We're going to continue insuring that house. We want it to be up to date. And if you need a new roof or if you've got water damage, we don't just want you to leave it there and not make the repair and pocket the cash and go to the Bahamas with it. Or we're meant to, the whole vision with insurance is it's meant to put you back to where you were before the loss. And you can't get back there without making the repairs. So.
Right. And so they can take the cash and figure it out, shop it later, or they can actually make the full repairs, which obviously we're suggesting make the full repairs. A lot of people listening to this will be small business owners running their own thing. Gosh, even in COVID, it's amazing how many businesses have sprung up. When it comes to business insurance, or even maybe if you're driving a car as part of your business, like is there a different insurance they need to look at?
There is. With the car example, depending on what you're doing. I mean, I commute to and from my office every day. Doesn't mean that I'm using it for business, even though I'm a small business owner. Now, if I'm going out to appointments, or let's say I'm a contractor, I'm using it as a work truck, or let's say I own a flower shop and I'm delivering flowers to people's businesses, etc. That's 100%. It should not be a personal vehicle. You take a big chance, especially with a lot of the smaller companies, to where you'll get into an accident and they'll say, sorry, you have this car categorized as it's a personal use vehicle. It's clearly not. And then they can get out of paying the claim and they'll deny your claim. That's never fun for anyone. So you definitely want to categorize it that way. It's a very small rider to do, but if you own a business, you should have business insurance, and then we can customize and tailor a plan to your specific business. And the riders on business insurance policies are almost endless.
Well, that's great. Well, we still haven't found an insurance that if you never use it, you get it back. But I'm glad to hear that Farmers was doing a discount and has done some other things as well, right? It's always in case something happens. Brandon, can you give us a quick commercial on how people can reach out to you and kind of maybe even your specialization of, hey, they got to pick up the phone and they got to call Brandon?
Sure, I appreciate that. Well, I'm in Woodbridge. I've been in Woodbridge for over 25 years. If you Google Brandon Farmers Woodbridge, I'll pull right up. My last name is Wince, W-I-N-C-E. Phone number is 703-490-4903. And really, everyone should call me. I mean, if I can help, fantastic. If I can advise and you end up staying with your current company, I'll still give you free advice as to, hey, why do you have this on your current policy? Why don't you have this? And if it works out well and it's mutually beneficial for you to make the switch to Farmers, I'm happy to help. I've got a large staff. I'm right here in Woodbridge, and hopefully don't plan on going anywhere for another 25 years. So thank you.
Love it. Yeah, definitely reach out to Brandon. He's been a great resource for our real estate company and for many of our clients who, frankly, have switched to him, and some have just stayed where they are, but they knew what to say or not to say when they talked to their insurance company and whether or not to file a claim. So as far as when we may edit this and go back in, but for deductibles, what size deductible do you recommend on car, home, and umbrella?
Well, for umbrella, it really doesn't have a deductible depending. Auto and home is easy. I say a low comp deductible for auto. Reason I try to push everyone towards a $100 comp deductible for auto is just for glass coverage purposes. And like if you hit an animal or something like, if you hit an animal, you don't want to have to pay $1,000. It's so much easier just to come up with $100. Or if your car's vandalized, all those are comp claims. For collision, 500, maybe 1,000. It just depends on the client and risk tolerance. For homeowners insurance, the norm is probably $1,000. It used to be 500, but if something happens and it's between $500 and $1,000 to repair it, in my opinion, you shouldn't put it in anyways. It's not worth it. Yeah, I'd say 1,000.
And that's a good risk game. Just let's focus on that for one moment. The homeowner's policy, there's an issue. We file a claim. Let's say it's even $1,200. And I know it's going to range based on the client, based on many things. But if it's my policy and I use Farmers to do it, how much more would be my insurance the following year since they do annual reviews?
It depends on the program. I mean, a lot of our policies, if you've been with us for long enough, and I'm only talking like a few years, your policy actually won't go up on renewal. But as a general rule of thumb, if you're out there with your current company, I would say 25 to 35% max would be the increase on renewal. But a lot of the times I can actually save you money. So if you put in a homeowner's insurance claim, let's say you get a new roof and you're with one of the 1-800 numbers and your home policy skyrockets on renewal, I love that. I love the fact that you have a new roof. I don't love the fact that your policy went up, but I can get you a massive discount by switching to Farmers. When you've got that new roof, you've already replaced it. We like that. We go after that client who already put in the roof claim. So it can be beneficial.
Oh, that's great. Well, we're gonna end this session, and we'll probably tweak this, put this somewhere else in it, with favorites. So I want you to say, Brandon, the first thing that comes to your mind for each of these favorites. Okay, are you ready?
Okay. Ready.
Favorite color.
Blue.
Favorite song. First thing that comes to mind.
Sorry, anything that has from the band Iration.
The band Iration. Okay. Favorite book.
Don't have one.
Favorite podcast besides ours.
Yours.
Favorite quote.
Keep selling.
Favorite president.
JFK.
And favorite season of the year.
Summer.
Awesome. Appreciate your time, Brandon. And
thank you.
Love it. Can't wait to get this out. We'll
yeah,
send
man.
it to
I like
you.
to see
You
it.
get a chance to listen.
Thank you for joining us for the Legacy Elevated podcast, where we reveal the ways to impact the world and leave a legacy that empowers the next generation. Follow us at Legacy Elevated on YouTube and Instagram. And if you have a business that can inspire others, reach out to us today.